Hello, my name's Julie Williams. I'm a registered migration agent with Migration Downunder, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Subclass 494 visa. The Subclass 494 visa is a provisional visa, but in some aspects it is almost like a permanent residency visa. It is a visa that requires you to have an employer to sponsor you, and the employer must be a standard business sponsor. They must also lodge a business nomination to nominate the occupation for which they are seeking you to fill. They also need to pay the market rate salary, and the market rate salary for the position must be above $73,150, which is the current TISMIT. Now, the 494 is for people that are working in regional areas. It's not for working in metropolitan areas, and regional areas are classified as anywhere outside of Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne. The employer must also have a regional base. Maybe their head office is in either Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne, but they have an office also in a regional location of Australia. Now, the Subclass 494 has its own dedicated occupation list, and the list reflects the needs of regional Australia, and there's often occupations in that list that are not necessarily currently on the core skilled occupation list for a 482 visa. So it gives people an advantage that have an occupation outside of that CSOL but is on the regional occupation list to be able to be sponsored and have a pathway to permanent residency, because the 494 is opening up a pathway to permanent residency. So some of the requirements of the 494 are a little higher than the 482 because it's in line with what the permanent residence requirement is. So, for example, what do you need to be able to meet the criteria for the 494? You must be, as the main applicant, under 45 years of age, unless there are exemptions. You must have English language requirements and meet those English language requirements at the time of application. You also must have a skills assessment, which is not mandatory for the SID 482 visa, but it is for the 494 visa. And the skills assessing authority will be determined on your occupation. And you also have to show that you've got the relevant work experience to meet the qualifications. And the skill assessing authority will assess both your formal qualification and your work experience. And generally speaking, skills assessing authorities do require a tertiary qualification to meet the requirements to have a successful outcome for the skills assessment. You will have access to Medicare, which is our national healthcare scheme. So you and all dependents on that 494 will have access to Medicare. You also get a 5-year visa as opposed to the SID, which is a maximum of 4 years. And you do have a number of conditions that you've got to adhere to whilst on that 494 to be able to pathway through to permanent residency. So the pathway to permanent residency is a lot less onerous because you've done all the hard work here for the 494. And as long as you continue to work and live in a regional area, then you can pathway to permanent residency after 3 years of living and working in that regional area. You can't be living in a regional area and working in the metropolitan. You must be also working in that regional area that has that designated area that you have been sponsored under, or there is opportunities to move within the regional areas, because at the initial onstart of the business nomination, the business does have to go through the relevant regional certifying body to certify that there is a genuine need for your position in that regional location. And all family members must also continue to work or study in a regional area. They can't be in a metropolitan area if they want to be included, continue to hold that 494 visa, as well as be included in the permanent residence. Be aware they do actually do audits of the 494. Every now and then they will request copies of or evidence to support your location of employment as well as your location of residence. They will look at things like bank statements that will show transactions such as groceries that are being purchased in that regional area or a regional area of Australia, wherever you're located. So the subclass 494 is a good option for those that do feel that they're going to meet the requirements of a skills assessment, have an occupation that is not on the 482 CSOL list, and provides you with a pathway to permanent residency. And the good thing about regional, it doesn't necessarily have to be remote. There's a lot of great regional areas that have got very large communities and very good access to all the essential services that one would expect in a metropolitan area. And be aware that it's only Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, so you could be living in Adelaide, Perth, Darwin, Hobart, all cities in their own right, as well as Canberra as well. So if you're interested, if you'd like to know more information about the subclass 494, then please do get in touch with us so that one of our very highly experienced registered migration agents can assist you in securing your 494 visa.